Welcome back, Ascension family, and thank you for taking the time to listen to my journey. Like, share, and subscribe to help me grow my channel. If you are meeting me for the very first time, I'm Patrizia Trani, Christ consciousness healer and teacher. I'm sharing channeled messages from my second book, The Chosen One. The second chapter are all stories about my past life healings. The scribed messages hold a light frequency to heal your life as well. I recommend that you just sit and close your eyes and allow the words to wash over you and the light codes to transmit throughout your whole body to also receive the healing. This story is titled The Wealthy Merchant in the Early 1900s. Jonathan was a very wealthy, highly successful merchant. He imported spices, teas, and oils and food items to England, America, and Europe. Jonathan had an abundance and material wealth and a very opulent mansion, complete with golden and marble fittings, plush velvet curtains, plenty of maids and servants. Cynthia was Jonathan's wife and was very loving, supportive. She was always constructive and had a good business mind, and often conversed with Jonathan about expansion of their business and acquiring more wealth. The more money they made, the more children they had. Jonathan would laugh, "Every time I obtain another agreement, another baby is born. Damn kids, they can sniff an inheritance even from heaven." Jonathan was very driven and passionate about spreading the word about his business worldwide. He wanted to be the most successful merchant, bringing in the purest essential oils, flavorsome teas, exotic spices, but he also wanted to expand to import handmade rugs, woven and beautifully patterned blankets, and traditional giftware from Lebanon, Egypt, and India, all of which were becoming quite popular and fashionable. Cynthia had enough nannies and home help not to be overrun by domestic duties and would enjoy the evening dinner time the most. Business was intensely demanding, and often Jonathan would have to force himself to retreat from his study den to join the family for the evening meal. As a result, he would either bring documents to the table or rush through dinner and excuse himself quickly to return to his work. Cynthia would be slightly angered by such actions, and it was very rude, and it was the behavior of a commoner. How ghastly. The business quickly developed into a corporation and was extremely wealthy, sailing big ships at sea to import from Asia and the East, and then by rail and truck from port. But there was a dark cloud looming. Inter-country travel, weeks at sea, and lack of hygiene brought about many diseases and illnesses unlike any seen before. The Great Plague had just been identified, and many houses in London and Europe were in lockdown, with black or red cross on the door indicating that infection may or is present in that household. What began as a fairly controlled and contained outbreak quickly became a widespread and vicious infection. People became so frightened, and rightly so. Once infected, no person was spared, no child, no woman, nor priest, nor doctor. Jonathan was increasingly concerned, but at first, all of his workers at the wharf and some ships were under quarantine until checked to be clean and disease-free. Disruption and dismay was all around. Jonathan was soon experiencing neighbours, workers, and school teachers all being struck down with this terrible illness. One night in his den, Jonathan reflected about how and what could stop this awful disease. It must be the devil's illness. Jonathan sat and prayed for his family and for help. God, is there anything in my fortunate position that I can do? My son, you are blessed and abundant with plenty. With the love and concern in your heart, take your wealth and invest it in the needy. Jonathan immediately took action. He felt a huge connection to his cause. His doctor friend had told him that there was no more room in the hospitals and people were first forced to stay at home. Obviously, whilst doing so, they would be putting family members to risk with infection. Jonathan immediately began to build a hospice. He started with an existing scout hall and an extension. The hospice was the size of 2 school gyms and housed 200 beds for the very sick and dying. Jonathan arranged blankets, food, and paid professionals to look after them. He included many comforting and beautiful pictures of Jesus and Mary on the walls to comfort the sick. Jonathan spent many hours in the hospice, risking his life to spend time talking to the dying. Jonathan knew that for all he had worked so hard to achieve, for all the children he had fathered and raised, nothing was so personally satisfying or gratifying than giving back to these people who were far less fortunate and who were now leaving the earth plane. Jonathan had to experience this aspect because there was already a future lifetime as a great healer already predestined. The major difference would be that Jonathan would channel from her Christ lineage, which was already obviously streaming through. Jonathan died at the age of 50 and rested with his soul family until the next incarnation was time. All blocks had been removed and healing has taken place. Amen. In the description below, there are links to all my services and products. Till our next story, God bless.